All right, as you can see, this is a KitchenAid stand mixer with a lift bowl, and it's a professional 600 series. And I'll tell you the problem I was having. First of all, this little flip lid and this ring here that goes with it came off. And so eventually I got tired of it and I decided to glue it back into place. And at some point after I glued it into place, and I don't know if it was before that or not, but the attachments stopped being able to be connected. I didn't know it, but what happened is one day, I had the food grinder put in there, and I put this screw back in with the pointy piece that fits into a little side, indentation, and I tightened it down. Everything seemed fine, no rotation or anything. But as I was grinding some hamburger, the whole meat grinder came out forward, and I thought, well, I didn't get that in tight enough. So I put it back in, and then same situation. It didn't come out again, but I realized that somehow it wasn't getting into the right spot. And then I looked very carefully right here, and when I had glued it back on, I knew I was a little bit off to the side, and so it was covering up that notch there a bit, and that's where the piece that goes in there that keeps the attachments from rotating, left and right that way. So it was covered up by a piece of this ring that's brass or whatever it is. And so I took my Dremel to it. I said, well, it was on there pretty good. I didn't want to take it out. And so I took the Dremel to it and I cut that notch open more. So clearly the little piece that fits in there would go in there. And I spent a good bit of time on it, and so still wasn't happening. So I thought, well, maybe somehow the motor had shifted forward somehow. Maybe I need to get in there and move the motor forward. So I took the band off, I took the 4 screws out, took the top off, and the motor was attached to the only place the motor can go. And of course I didn't want to mess with the motor because it drives this the part down there that turns the regular mixer pieces. So I thought, well, what's going on here? So eventually I decided, and I have several attachments. I tried a few of them, some of the pasta ones and the meat grinder. I didn't pick out the last one, but anyway, that was 4 things that I could try in here, and none of them would go in far enough. And how I could tell they weren't going in far enough was not only was there a gap, which I think the gap is sort of normal on my unit. There's a gap here, they weren't fitting flush. But down here in this hole, when you look through that hole, you should see the indentation that's in the, I know this looks like a bloody mess, but you should see the indentation that is in the attachment coming through there, so that little, it's not a hole, but it's an indentation. And through this hole, you'll see that indentation, so that pointy piece out of this attachment screw will fit down into that indentation. So finally, even though it was showing up a little bit, it wasn't showing up far enough to catch on this. And so I finally figured that what was going on is this, where I glued this in here, it was still protruding. And to me, it feels like it's protruding just a little bit now. You can see it was protruding a little bit more than that. I thought, oh, that's probably what's keeping it. Probably it's the 1/16 of an inch, but it was too much. So there was a little gap up here in the top, so I took a screwdriver, pried this whole thing out. I scraped out all of the glue, which was a very strong glue. It was really keeping it in there while I was dremeling against and sawing it and everything. And so I took all the glue out, and I thought, am I going to glue this back in there with some sort of thinner glue or what? And then I just decided that probably was pressed in there with a machine press, and that if I would tap a hammer against it, I could eventually get it in there about as far as it needed to get. And so that's what I did. I took a hammer and I tapped on that. Now, they probably don't want you hammering the front of your machine, but that was a way of getting it in there. In fact, I did it while it was still off the machine. I just had the whole lid picked up as one piece, and so it was off the machine, and I was tapping it in there while I was holding it. That got it far enough so that I I couldn't see the notch completely in the hole, but enough of it was there that when I tightened the screw, it would pull the, whatever the attachment was, it would pull it in a little bit. And then I couldn't pull the attachment out once I got it tight enough. So that did the trick. And I just want to let you know, you don't have to, if you're having that problem, when you put this back on, try to just hammer it on there. Try not to glue it. And they probably didn't think about this coming off ever. You don't need to saw anything over here. I know mine looks like a mess, but you know, once that cover's on there, you don't see it from the front anyway, and I don't really care because it's, at least it works now. All right, leave some comments on that if you've experienced this issue and what you did, if you were smart enough just to go ahead and hammer it back on rather than trying to glue it and make a project for yourself like I had. And click like if you like it.